who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means, what an ending means.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavine, it does. They need me.
So it's End of Dragons Daily 22, the show in which we discuss a little bit about the upcoming expansion, get some back and forth, some speculation going, hopefully a little bit of excitement while we're at it. Now, I know the main topic on the table at the moment is this Heart of Thorns versus POF style of X-Pac, and we've had a ton of comments about that. I'm actually really excited for a lot of your takes. Some of you guys have sent some ridiculous walls of text, but today, look, I'm still not feeling it. I think I'm mostly not feeling it because I've been working on other stuff all afternoon, and I was expecting the patch to hit today. It then took ages to come out, and now finally that it's here, all the servers have gone down, so that's really kind of weird. I've just uploaded yesterday's End of Dragons Daily now, and yeah, we'll run on through. So instead, I'm just going to take some of the other comments, some of the other discussion that you guys have had that I really want to respond to, because I think you guys have got some really interesting ideas. And with all that said, let's jump on in. Bit of a joke here from Riddle Sphinx saying, "This week on To Catch a Serial Killer," and he quotes me saying, or maybe I'm just obsessed with the idea of seeing Kunavang dead, the deep sea dragon dead with swords in her and blood pooling all around her. I think that'd be amazing. You know what, I said all that in that video, and do you know what I really think I had in mind when I was editing? I sort of realized it. I think I'm just being influenced, and I have no idea why, because I haven't thought about the game for several months now, not since I was last speaking to Magical Mike 2 about it. Final Fantasy 7, I swear that image I had in my head was just of a moment with the Midgar Zolom, right? There's a moment where Sephiroth has slain it, if I remember rightly, and you see it draped over. I swear that's just what I had in my head. I don't know why, but now obviously that's cool, and that needs to be in Guild Wars, damn it. Next, we have Jorik Parr, who said, not necessarily a question for End of Dragons, but still related. How drafty would you imagine were the main plot points of the Guild Wars 2 story? I'll do an example for after Zaitan. Sylvari goes rogue, Morgemoth gets active by the Fallout somehow, Glint's offspring joins the battle, Balthazar returns from the mist to reclaim his power. How would you imagine it more fleshed out? Maybe less? Maybe in less defined or undefined order? And how would your draft of the main plot points look like? What would you consider important? Like, I left out Ritlock in the mist because it does not matter that much in my opinion. Alright, to the second half of that, I'd probably really have to sit down and brainstorm it. I know it's drafty and it's meant to be quick and brief, but I feel like I wouldn't do it justice just off the cuff. But this is a really incredible question. I think about this all the time. And to be honest with you, I think it was extremely drafty for years. In fact, your little draft there, I don't even think that they had that much. You got to look at stuff like when Guild Wars 2 came out, they'd set up this world and they knew the game was generally going to be about fighting the dragons. But I don't think they really got much further than that. I think their initial instincts were to do Jormag next. And I say that because there are a couple of prominent Jormag mentions right there in the main campaign, and especially towards the end. There's even a very direct note at Fort Trinity where they say, oh, we're going to go after Jormag next. Now, they never outright say it. They leave the door open. But I think that changed. I think that changed because the community caught onto their subtle hints about Morgemoth, really. And all of a sudden, that's what the studio was interested in. I can very much, I mean, I've never worked at ArenaNet, and I don't really know that well, but I can very much imagine that they were sat down at some point and basically said, all right, what are you guys excited about? What do you want to do? And I think most of the studio ended up not excited about Jormag in 2012, early 2013. They were excited about the Sylvari stuff and the Morgemoth stuff. So they ran with it. And when you look at Living World Season 1 as well, that's such an interesting time because it was such a wild idea from a development standpoint, a delivery standpoint, all that, but also from story. Like, it seems like they really hired a bunch of new people or pushed people into new positions to head off the story and all this incredible stuff that was really, really defining for how the campaign would go forward, and none of that felt like it was in place. Probably because of some of their other world builders and talent going on to a new project, a sci-fi thing is my theory. Like, why did Destiny's Edge 2.0 really come out of left field in the way they did? And all of Scarlet's alliances come out of left field in the way that they did? You know, we currently have a story with Aurene and the egg and all of that. And I feel like not even that was planned, really. I feel like when we had that Zephyrite release, and they put those hints in about the Brotherhood of the Dragon, they saw it really resonated with the community, and they kind of pushed that further. Maybe it was just an idea, just a strand, just a feeler at first, and then they decided to keep going with it. I mean, in a way, we're kind of looking at a chicken and the egg sort of situation, but I really feel like it was all very vague, and Ritlock is a great thing that you've brought up in your own comment. Like, I bet they had a lot more ideas with the Ghosts of Ascalon and stuff with Ritlock there. They probably had ideas with that mysterious crew member that had come over to, sorry, not crew member, old friend of Rox's during Season 2. They probably had ideas with the locket that could tell the lineage of the descendants of the throne, and that stuff kind of got pushed aside for other stories that they were a little bit more in favor of telling. And this isn't just like small fluff. I feel like these could have been main plot points. I guess the Casimir lying thing's kind of a thing too. I think that things probably started to change around Heart of Thorns. By the time we get to Heart of Thorns, I think that they finally have good drafts for like the long term. For example, when Heart of Thorns came out, I'm pretty sure they knew that Season 3 would all be about the hatching of the egg and the fallout from that. The big question is, at that point, right after Heart of Thorns release, did they know about Balthazar? So, I think during the development of Season 3, they did know about Balthazar, of course, because they were making Path of Fire during that time, and Path of Fire is all about Balthazar. So, while Season 3 is going on, I think that they had that idea, but right before that, I don't know. I guess this is kind of that content drought where we just had a couple of raid releases, right? And then you've got the whole Lazarus thing in there as well, and that was such an interesting season because they were trying to do this big mystery. Lazarus is actually Balthazar, and that's such a wild, like, crazy idea. I almost feel like looking back, they didn't really know, but they must have. It's just that they didn't put enough hints in. Like, I'd love to be able to sit here right now and say to you guys, look at this hint, look at this hint, look at this hint. It was in front of our faces the whole time. But really, you can't. You got like a few very vague hints, a sense of fire here and there, for example. And even outside of hints, you know, I wish that they'd emphasized that maybe Lazarus was an imposter a little bit earlier than they did and a little bit harder than they did. But, you know, these are all shoulda, woulda, couldas. It's easy to say in hindsight different ways that they could have framed things throughout Season 3 to make the story feel a bit more cohesive. And, you know, the speed that they were developing that and the nature of those releases made it an almost impossible task. And I think they did pretty well with it in the end. But yeah, I think right around Heart of Thorns, after Heart of Thorns, that's when they probably had a drafty idea of, yeah, Balthazar's going to be the next expansion. We want to do stuff about the gods a bit more. We want to go back to the Crystal Desert. It's funny, it almost feels like a sidebar in the end in Path of Fire, but I think that Kesho was probably a drafted bullet point. You know, Heart of Thorns established Glint's legacy in Tyria, and I think right from then they knew they wanted another city, and I think they probably knew they wanted it in their next expansion, and that only at that point would we hear the full extent of Glint's legacy. I don't know whether they knew what Glint's legacy was at that point. The idea of replacing dragons, not killing them, I don't know if that was really formed, even at Heart of Thorns. That might have come a bit after, when they saw especially people getting tired of the idea of fighting so many. I also think that they knew it was going to be Krauk after Morgemoth, because I think they knew that Season 3 was going to be the egg hatching, and then POF and Season 4 was going to be the dragon growing up to take out Kralkatorrik. And I think they always knew it was going to be Kralkatorrik, because Aurene is, you know, one of Glint's eggs, so it's all that family line. Basically, I think, yeah, as soon as Heart of Thorns came out, they had it all worked out till the end of Season 4. And you see at the end of Season 4, quite recently, really, by all standards, it really feels like a big ending. And now I feel like we're kind of in another weird, uncharted territory, or at least we have been for the past 2 years, and I guess we'll see where they go from that. I do take quite a lot of heart, though, from Ruby's comment, where she said that End of Dragons, like all their Living World seasons, and I guess expansions too, have been building to End of Dragons. That's what she said. The question is, what is that bullet point that they've had on the list, you know? I think we can safely assume, by the way, as well, that either the final bullet point or one of the latest bullet points has always been the death of all the dragons, right? I think we've always been able to assume that. I mean, I know if I was in the room, what I'd have the last bullet point as, it would be the destruction of Primordus. It wouldn't be the Deep Sea Dragon. It wouldn't be any of this other stuff. It would be Primordus. But, hey, we'll see what ArenaNet have got in store. Maybe we're doing the big dragon medley. I could honestly talk about this question for, like, a whole video, so I'll stop myself there. Good one, though. Next, we've got Will Hart, who said top 10 mini video could be cool, too. You know, no joke, I'm actually working on a video about minis at the moment. I don't know whether it will become anything. There's probably much better things I should do, But I feel like there's so many interesting things you can talk about with minis and the assets in the game. There's 2 videos I kind of want to make at the moment, and I don't promise either of them, because I kind of feel like the way I tackle this subject material is to suck all the fun out of it in a way. So maybe they wouldn't be good ideas in the end. But I want to do one on minis, and I kind of as well, I want to make a case for strike missions. I want to say, look at this instance. Look at this moment in this story step. Look at this creature, this asset that you've got. I want strike missions out of this stuff. Like, for example, I'm thinking about in Season 4, when we had that amazing fight against the Inquest Golem amongst the Omicron. Remember, right when you meet the Omicron? That's a cool fight. That's a unique guy with unique animations and all this stuff in a giant circular arena. It would not take much to recalibrate that, cut it out, put it in as a strike mission. It would not take much, and it would feel very unique amongst the other kind of content that we've got. I believe that there's a case to be made the game is full of stuff like that. So maybe I'll do a video, or maybe just mentioning it here has been enough to kill my enthusiasm. I also like, you know, stuff like the abomination, like in this mini video. Sorry, not the abomination, the mini failed experiment. If you guys don't know about this, it's this really creepy, crazy creature that you can get as a mini out of the Mystic Forge, but it doesn't appear as an actual fight anywhere in the game. It's not a creature you can interact with. It's just there as a mini and as a scepter and a mace, and it's the freakiest, weirdest thing. It's like, clearly like an intern or something made it. It made its way into the game, and I'm saying, look, you've got this creature. No one's been able to fight it ever or do anything. Just make that thing massive, plop it in a circular arena, see what you got. You know, it's not going to be hard to be better than, like, the golem. Do you know what I mean? The ice golem that you fight, all right? The bar is pretty low, ArenaNet. Just go for it. Have some fun. Have some freedom. And look at these assets. Look at, like, the mini chest. I really am ruining the video here. All my ideas for the video are coming out. But there's so many things, and you'll see a bit of that in this mini video if I do it too. And then, yeah, like a tonic video. I don't know. I think this is where a lot of you guys think that, like, I'm just a lore guy, and that's really where my main thing is with Guild Wars, but I really think this is where, beyond most other players, I'm especially weird, because I really do love looking at the game's assets and all its potential, because it's unbelievable, and it's enough to be very, very, very depressing as well when you realize a lot of it will be unrealized. Unless, you know, changes are made. Anyway, let's move on. We've got Timothy T, who says, that moment when you realize the Deep Sea Dragon is in the Jade Sea Deep, and there's a story arc based on time travel? Please, I dare them, lol. Right, I don't get this, but in the most recent video, I had a ton of people talking about time travel. I almost feel like we're back at the start of Season 3 here, and I had a weird, like, couple of cryptic comments about Balthazar. And I was like, why would Balthazar be in the story? And then by the end of the season, suddenly it was Balthazar. And it was like, wow, was that someone leaking somehow or what? I'm not saying that time travel here is a leak. But suddenly, out of nowhere, you guys are talking about time travel. I guess it's because I mentioned that the trailer might be in the past as like a flashback. Maybe because I mentioned the scrying pool and we might be seeing stuff. Look, I really do not want ArenaNet to do time travel. Can I just say that again? Do not do time travel. Do not do time travel. Do not do time travel. It would completely rip apart the foundation and the stakes of this franchise. The one thing that this has really got going for it in a big way at the moment is that it hasn't messed with time travel. Now, I know April Fools and the whole Terminator reference thing in Guild Wars 1, and I know those commandos appeared in the Jahai Bluffs as a little Easter egg and a little nod. Right, I get it, there's a little bit, okay? And I get it, Baltec might be a time traveler, and what they've actually written about the function of the rift at the heart of the mist is that time travel is in theory possible. Okay, I can accept attributes of time travel glancing us, but to actually have us time travel, and again, I know in the April Fool's thing we kind of did, but that's sort of separate. I consider that as like, you know, adjacent canon almost. To actually have us do that is like in like big ticket, meaningful ways. No, thank you. Please, I really, really think that you're messing with stuff here. As beautiful as us coming back from the dead in Path of Fire was, and how amazing that was as a nod to what had happened in factions years before, and, you know, even talking to the envoys about that in Guild Wars 2 might be amazing. As much as I like all of that stuff, for every other person I find who enjoyed it, other people say they're not that interested anymore because we came back from the dead, and Aurene came back from the dead, and the quality of discussion just gets lower and lower and lower as people lose enthusiasm because people might come back or people might go back in time and change things. Let's not do it. You know, I'm up for Elseworld ideas, but not as serious stuff, please. Really weird one from William George here. I don't have much to add to this, but I feel like it's important to express. The voice actors are one of the reasons I'm thinking the Commander is going to be alone in Cantha. Thanks to Critical Role and a number of popular cartoons, a lot of the cast are in pretty high demand as voice artists and can command some hefty salaries now. While I'm sure Sam Riegel will be in the game until the servers close down, I think we're in for a clean break from what came before. I don't know how realistic that is, but I am aware that a lot of high-profile, like, gaming voice actors and stuff have been earning a bit of side money with Critical Role and D&D and all these kind of streaming opportunities. I don't know. I've always had massive respect and admiration for the people doing that work because, you know, you'll find their voices in the quietest, like, least hyped franchises out there. They're earning a living and they're hard grafters and they put the work in. And I've always had immense respect for some of the big names that consistently have worked with Guild Wars for years and years and years. You know, these are guys that go to conventions where people ask them all day, every day about their favorite characters. Like, imagine you're John DiMaggio, right? So this is Canuck. And there might be some weird controversy with that because he's not around anymore. But imagine you're him and you're going to conventions every day. People aren't asking you about Canuck. They're asking you about Bender and they're asking you about Adventure Time. They're asking you about other video games, not Guild Wars. And so, you know, I would love to cling on to them, but I do always get scared of the idea that some of our most important voice artists might leave. It is very weird. It's one of those places where being a video game fan and being a video game dev starts to cross over with issues that, like, soap operas run into and long-running television series that eventually you're going to have to replace your talent. Very weird. Next, and by the way, an argument for Guild Wars 3 there, I think. So often there are good arguments for Guild Wars 3. Sunny says, are the videos on Patreon available on any tier, or were they only for the $20 subs? I can't afford that, but I really want to support with a 1 to 5 per month and still get the early access. Yeah, I didn't talk about this because I didn't know what I was going to do before. Originally, I was thinking it would just be the top tier. But the way I've actually got it set up is everyone at 5. So, yeah, there is a $1 tier on there. It's just kind of there, I think. I should probably take it away because once that turns into pounds and then after I get taxed on it and, you know, after Patreon takes their cut and after PayPal takes their cut, you're literally just giving me like a couple of pennies. And it is probably a waste of everyone's time. Maybe if I got rid of that, if even the slightest proportion of people at $1 ended up at 5, because that's now the lowest rung, is probably better for me business sense-wise, but, you know, I've been putting off that. Yeah, it's at 5, so pretty much if you are over there, then you're getting the episodes early. I also fixed Discord integration today and made some other little housekeeping and other tweaks, by the way, guys. So for those who have been interested in that, it is there now. And please, I do encourage you, it's in the description down below. And finally, closing out, we got Liar Paradox, who says, what about technologically advanced Tengu? It turns out that the Tengu we've seen are so far researchers that are trying to avoid contaminating our backwards culture while they study us, and a few that have gone native after being separated from their civilization for too long. Well, no, I don't really believe this at all. Heart of Thorns especially is weird because you've got like the Quetzal just wandering around outside of the Dominion of Winds, sort of not necessarily a party to all of the other stuff. If you really look at the lore and the way that they basically said all the Tengu fled from Cantha and went to hide up in the Dominion of Winds, it kind of actually makes a case for there being almost no Tengu down in Cantha at all. What my expectation is not a thriving society. My expectation is some kind of small cell of resistance. Either that, which by the way does not lend very well to the idea that they'll become playable in the expansion. Either that, or when we get to Cantha, we'll find out there's been this big war going on between humans and Xenos, or Tengu specifically. Maybe the Tengu are heading this alliance with the Naga next to them and stuff like that. That'd be very cool. And I know you might think, oh, that sounds ridiculous, WP. Well, that's exactly what they did in Guild Wars 1. They introduced us to Cantha and said, here's a bunch of humans. By the way, they've been at war with the Tengu. They've been spreading diseases to one another, eating one another, all this kind of stuff. So over to the idea of technologically advanced Tengu. Well, this opens a really interesting can of worms. Because the question becomes, why are people excited about the Tengu? And I'm not the only one to ask that, and I'm sure that ArenaNet themselves have actually really been struggling wondering that question. Because we haven't really interacted with them enough to get a great sense. I mean, they're kind of traditional, they're kind of remind me of like samurais, and they're these very honorable people. They're kind of distant. The direction that Guild Wars 2 took them, being like isolationist to the point that they'll actually fire arrows at you and stuff like that, is an interesting side. I think a lot of us, to be perfectly honest, why we are excited about the Tengu is not actually tethered to their substance in game. We're excited because they look cool, because the potential for customization, you know, or if that were to become a playable race, is actually quite high, because the animations look really fluid and fun, and you could do interesting things with them, much as the studio did with the Char or with the Asura, which I think are standouts in terms of the animations. We're interested in them for consistency's sake with Guild Wars 1, where they were, again, this highly intelligent species. We're maybe interested in them because they are just a unique thing in fantasy. You don't find many fantasy MMOs that do an avian species as a playable race very well at all. And, you know, we're going a few years back now, but ArenaNet actually have a very good reputation for translating their playable races into something a little bit different from the standard fare. You know, look at the whole thing with the Char not having breasts, right? They didn't just slap tits on a cat and say, there you go, it's a girl. They thought really carefully about it. They thought really carefully about the Sylvari, and I'm very excited to see them think carefully about the Tengu, or hell, any number of races, which again was why it's such a crime that it's been 8 years and they haven't damn well added anything. They haven't flexed one of their talents as a studio. Absolutely nuts. In any case, those things, you know, they don't really give ArenaNet a direction for the Tengu. So maybe you could have them be technologically advanced. Would that be offensive to some? I don't know. I'm not that attached to their more traditional side. So sure, give them guns, give them holographic weaponry, make them, you know, team up with the Inquest, and they've got all this nut stuff. I don't really care. In fact, one of my main excitements with the Tengu for all time has been the idea of a Tengu wielding a rifle. I think if I ever made one, I would have it as a warrior and I'd run around with a rifle. I've always loved that visual of, you know, arriving in Cantha and all of a sudden you get knocked out by a Tengu and you look up and he's standing over you, you know, peering down the sight of a gun pointed at your chin or something. I think that's cool. And, you know, that's technological Tengu, I suppose. So there you have it, guys. That's End of Dragons Daily. Thank you very much for watching. Please do remember you can listen to the episode right now over on Patreon. And please feel free to drop comments, questions, interesting ideas down below, and we'll get to them in the upcoming pieces. God, it's been another week now, so I'll have to change the thumbnails again. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully the current patch is up now, and I'll see you soon.